Hey guys, in today's video I want to tell you about the book that I read recently. It's called the Paleo Manifesto, Ancient Wisdom for Lifelong Health. It's John Durant. I bought this book on Amazon after watching, I think, Underground Wellness. I think he recommended it, and I think I saw an interview with the guy. He made an interview with him, and it's actually about paleo, sort of ish, about paleo diet, well, most of it. And as you know, I don't eat meat. I haven't eaten meat for the last few months. I eat fish, I eat animal products, but I just don't eat meat. So you might think, like, why would you even read this book? But as I said before, I like to get to know all sorts of diet, and I don't really follow any one diet because I believe everyone is different, and we all have different, our bodies are different, they react differently to different foods, we have different, like, health history and stuff like that, and I don't think there is any one particular diet that would fit every single person. So what I do is I get to know all these loads of different diets, and I take all the best from each and every single one of them, and I actually, so I read this book and I found it really, really interesting. So first thing is what you can learn from this book is what our ancient ancestors can teach us about how to be healthy, getting stronger, losing weight, and living longer. So first hundred of pages, I think it's he's talking about all sorts of different eras and what characteristics they had. He's also going into the zoo, and he is talking to the person who's looking after the apes, and you see the environment that they created for them, taking them out of their natural environment into the zoo, how it affected them, what sort of foods they got, and that was very interesting. So then he's talking about all sorts of different eras, and, like, let's say farmers, when you get all the wheat and stuff, when the people started eating it, they actually started having problems with teeth. Before, there was never a problem like that. People had strong teeth, and there was never, any dental problems. So this is actually really interesting, of how we sort of how our, like, new ways of eating throughout all sorts of different eras, how they affected our health. Next thing is food principles for a healthy diet, and I actually and that's from about 120 page 120, and I actually found this really, really interesting, and I'll tell you what it is about. It's about eating, so loads of good things. And not only, as I said, like for meat eaters, but it's like you should stop counting calories. Next thing is, don't be afraid of fat, obviously good fats, eat the right food groups. Next thing is actually he's talking about eat a variety of plants, experiment with dairy, then how to eat, follow ancient culinary traditions, eat fermented foods, make broths and stocks, cook with traditional recipes, eat raw food. So you see, cook with traditional fats and oils. So it's not only, because loads of people, I see loads of vegetarians or vegans are really against paleo diets, and actually he's talking about how, these raw foods are important as well, fruits and veg. Eat your colors, don't throw out the yolk, eat liver. Obviously he's talking about meat as well. Then he's talking about eat oily cold water fish, drink tea, salt to taste. Now, what not to eat, avoid industrial foods, sugars and seeds. So he's talking about the negative effects of sugars, industrial foods, and seeds. Avoid vegetable oils, and experiment, customize, enjoy. So he also says here that actually you have to sort of watch your body's reactions to all sorts of different foods. Then he's talking about fasting, how fasting is important, especially in healing. And he's talking about all sorts of different cultures, and how fasting was important or is still important in different cultures. And then he's talking about standing, walking, running, and how important is barefoot walking. And also he's talking about gyms and like CrossFit, that CrossFit is really sort of the closest one to what the people in that era were sort of doing, all the sort of like movements and activities and stuff like that. Then he's talking about thermoregulation and how getting actually cold is good for you, or as well how saunas are beneficial, and then getting into cold water or hot and cold showers, which I think is really good in this book, that he's looking at health not only as in diet but what you do in general. Then he's talking about sunrise and sunset, and why is it so important, our biological clock, and about like hormones and stuff like that. Why is it important? The last bit is about he's talking about how he went hunting, because obviously when he started eating paleo diet, he was like, okay, I now have to sort of hunt for the food, kill it, and then eat it, and cook it and eat it. And he did, and I actually found it a little bit disgusting to read it. It was really difficult for me to read this. But an interesting thing that he's talking about in this book, because he's talking about vegetarians as well right at the end, and he's talking about that he made a really good point that even in that era it was like people, why is there more vegetarian women rather than men? Men are naturally born hunters, and women actually, they always like looked after children, they were gatherers as well. So we sort of, it was like a protection as well, that we didn't want to be around sort of that. That what might explain why there's more vegetarians rather than women rather than men. If it's true, I don't know. To me it was a really interesting read, as to only because it's not only about the diet, but you can have a look throughout all different eras, and how everything, how our introducing of certain foods changed, like how healthy we are, and I think it's really interesting. So I highly recommend this book, guys, even if you're not a meat eater like me. I really found this book interesting. So if you read it, let me know. If you haven't, I really highly recommend it. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.